A man named Chris Nielsen is on vacation. He is peacefully rowing across a quiet lake when another boat suddenly bumps into his.
Scusi.
Ready to confront the person responsible, he stops short upon seeing a beautiful woman in the other boat. The woman seems to be lost and asks, which way is the way to Switzerland in Italian? Unfortunately, Chris couldn't understand but tried to tell her that using the little Italian he knows.
Oh, Swiss, yeah. You are.
Finally, she realizes that he is American and she talks to him in English. He then points her toward the shoreline and she thanks him and goes in that direction.
Keep going that way. Till you smell money or you step in chocolate.
Later, their paths cross again. The woman, an artist named Annie Collins, walks towards him and asks if she could sit next to him. Chris jokes, saying that she can't because he reserved the area 2 years ago. Annie then pretends to beg.
How about if I say please?
That's the one exception.
She then put a big red blanket on the ground and sat next to him. He asks if she found Switzerland, and she tells him she did. She introduces herself, and the two strike up a conversation. When he asks how she knew he would be there, she tells him he didn't.
They had sandwiches there. I brought you some.
Time skips ahead to their wedding. They get married in church, laughing and full of life. Then time skips further still to a warm, joyful home where they raise 2 children, Ian and Marie. Their life seems full.
Let's make out.
One morning at breakfast, Marie asks her mom to pick her up from school. Annie declines, citing an important meeting. She promises she will see her chorus next morning.
I'll work it out. I don't want to miss it.
We're late, guys.
The children leave with their nanny. As they leave, Chris tells Ian to do well in his exam. Then they walk out. Chris sees them off. As he does, his voice narrates what comes next. The children die later that day.
It was the last time Annie and I saw them alive.
The funerals of their children are held after. The loss tears into their lives. They got heartbroken by the loss of their children.
How do we make sense of the feelings we left?
4 years pass. Chris is now back at work. He goes to the children that are in the waiting area. Among them, he calls one of them Stacy. He then takes her to his office to treat her. Stacy tells him her head hurts a lot.
Does your head hurt a lot?
All the time.
While reviewing brain scans, he gets a call from Annie. She reminds him of an art exhibition happening that evening and mentions that 8 paintings expected from Germany haven't arrived. She needs a last-minute solution to salvage the show. She needs replacements the night before the opening.
It's our double D anniversary, and I'm ruining everything.
Double D.
Chris, hearing the panic in Annie's voice, gently urges her to stay calm. On top of that, it is their anniversary, and she thinks she is ruining it. She repeatedly apologizes, telling him she can't leave work. He suggests she fill the exhibition gap with her own artwork. Annie agrees, but she doesn't have anyone to pick them up, and Chris assures her he'll pick up the paintings from home after wrapping up at the hospital. She thanks him and they end the call.
That gives us a chance to show yours. You've got to hang it. It's very sexy.
He then turns to Stacy and asks if she feels better now. She tells him she does, and he realizes the problem is migraine. Later, with his shift done, Chris heads out. Rain pours down as he drives, and traffic slows near a tunnel where several cars have crashed. Braking just in time, he grabs his medical kit and rushes toward the scene to see if there is anyone hurt.
Are you alright?
Yes, I think so.
He finds a woman trapped inside an overturned vehicle and begins trying to help. But just then, another car loses control and crashes into the scene, hitting Chris head-on. He was taken to the hospital, but he couldn't survive. Meanwhile, Chris finds himself wandering in confusion, unable to grasp that he's no longer alive. Eventually, a ghostly figure takes shape, a shadowy blur. It is Albert, Chris's old mentor from his medical residency, but Chris didn't recognize him. Albert gently confirms the truth. Chris is dead.
You've died, Chris.
Chris, still resisting, asks why he can see everyone clearly. The answer is simple. Clarity comes only with acceptance. Annie is in the house, sad and completely shattered. A flashback is shown when Marie's dog, Katie, is sick. Marie insists on going with her dog, but Annie tells her that Katie is not going to the hospital to get better, but to be put down. Marie gets angry. She accuses her mother of killing her dog.
And she hurts very.
Annie tells her that Katie is in pain now, so they need to help her end the pain. When Marie asks where she is going after this, Annie tells her that she'll go wherever people go. In the present, a funeral is held for Chris.
Who lost her only children just 4 short years ago.
Chris starts accepting his death. Albert encourages him. Chris then walks between people and reaches Annie. She looks numb and frozen. He tries touching her face, and it seems like she feels his existence. Chris shows Albert a painting. Annie gave it to him, and the painting shows Annie's imagination of the place she wants to leave. That night, Annie sits down to write about Chris, overwhelmed with grief.
I'm writing in your bullshit pages because my shrink is crazier than I am.
Chris, hovering near, tries to send her a sign, a small message to show he's still by her side. Annie feels something and he holds her hands and makes her write that he still exists. But Annie doesn't believe this. Broken with sorrow, tear the paper and throw it away. Chris wonders when it is going to end. Albert tells him there is no rule, and it ends when he decides to let go. Albert advises Chris to let go, to stop trying to hold on to a world that's moved on, but Chris can't. Not yet. The next day, Annie visits Chris's grave. She kneels by the headstone, tracing his name with her fingers, memories washing over her. Chris draws closer, pouring everything into trying to make her feel his presence. He's still there, even if she can't see him. Annie, instead of sensing Chris's presence at the grave, breaks down in uncontrollable sobs. Watching her unravel, Chris realizes he can't ease her pain, and that staying only deepens it. With a heavy heart, he turns away. He runs through a dark tunnel, and then that ends in a brighter place. Shortly after, he wakes up in a place that looks like heaven, or more precisely, like one of Annie's paintings. It's vibrant, surreal, and achingly beautiful. He notices his hands are covered in paint. As he is standing there, Katie runs towards him, no longer sick or old. He then follows Katie and runs to a mountain. There he finds a tree from Annie's painting. He laughs in joy and screams Annie's name. Now that Chris has accepted his death, he sees Albert clearly. Albert reminds him the last time he saw him was when Albert was in his 60s and he was in a cardiac ward. He jokingly asked Chris if he assumed he would still be old and decrepit here too.
Can't go out! Who wants to be 63 throughout eternity?
Albert walks and dances on the water. Chris asks if it was Albert that stayed with him just after he died. Albert tells him it was him, but he thought Chris recognized him because he was calling him Doc repeatedly.
Me being your favorite doc of all time.
Albert then helps Chris up from where he was sitting, and they hug. Albert explains that this realm responds to thought and imagination. Whatever Chris envisions becomes his reality. There are different things that Annie didn't paint, but are in the realm.
There's so much here she didn't paint.
Albert tells him that what Annie gave him was a start, and now he is creating all these things himself.
And he gave you a start. Sort of like holding on to handrails.
When he asks why the bird is not moving, Albert tells him it will move when he wants it to move. And at that time, the bird starts flying. Albert asks about the house Annie painted for them, so they decide to go there. Albert suggests using a shortcut and walks on the water, but Chris falls inside. He tells Albert that he is drowning, but he tells him he can't. He is already dead. Shortly after, Chris emerges from the water.
So if you're aware you exist, then you do.
They finally reach the house. The place is an exact replica of the dream home Annie once painted. The interior is perfect down to the last brushstroke. It's as if her vision has come to life here. Albert then offers to show him something and make a hole on the wall. When he sees through the wall, there no longer is paint and there is a complete world. Albert tells him that what is real and physical is an illusion. Then they stand there drinking coffee they created with their imagination. At that moment, in the real world, Annie is painting a tree, trying to bridge the gap between them through her art. She believes that Chris can hear and see her. She thinks that he can see the purple tree she is drawing too.
Why do I think you can see this?
Later during a walk, Albert spots a purple tree atop a hill. Albert suggests they go see it and tells him he can reach there in 8 seconds. Chris, after seeing Annie in his vision, decides to fly there. He couldn't fly, but he managed to reach the tree. Albert also appears next to him.
The canvas was blank when I was alive.
Chris asks why he is seeing a painting that was painted after he died. Albert is equally confused and amused.
For an expert, you look pretty surprised.
Albert explains it's no coincidence. They are soulmates. Their soul is intertwined with each other, and that connection lasts even after death. That deep connection allows such moments of overlap between worlds. But back on Earth, Annie realizes Chris can't see her paintings anymore. In grief and frustration, she ruins her canvas with water. Instantly, in Chris's realm, the once glorious tree wilts and drops its leaves. He understands Annie is slipping further into sorrow, and there's nothing he can do. In a desperate attempt, he screams that he loves her.
I love you!
Later, as he is walking with Albert, he notices a footprint on the ground. When asked whose footprints were there, Albert tells him Chris was the one who put them there. Then he sees Annie and runs towards her. Albert stops him, telling him that a fantasy is not what he needs right now.
Fantasies aren't what you need right now, Chris.
Albert tries to tell him that he will meet Annie when the time comes, but Chris tells him there is no concept of time there. But Albert insists both of them will feel differently after a while. This angers Chris even more. Soon after, he spots a toy that belonged to his daughter, Marie. He runs towards it and picks the toy up. It stirs something in him. He asks Albert why his children aren't with him. Albert replies that the kids have built their own spaces here, and Chris will be reunited with them when he's truly ready.
What does that mean, Buddha?
The next day, Chris wakes up after having a dream about Marie. He then gets up and walks out of the house. There he is met by a radiant young woman named Leona. She explains that Albert had other duties and sent her in his place. She then mentions that he seems isolated and asks if he wants other people in another city. Chris tells her he would love to, but jokes, saying that travel makes him nauseous. Leona chuckles and covers his eyes. When he opens his eyes, he is in another place. Leona leads Chris into her world, a vibrant realm where souls float joyfully, free from pain and gravity.
Up till now, you've been painting your own world. This is mine.
They keep walking, and Chris asks if what they do is work. She tells him Albert helps lost souls, and she usually works with animals. At that time, Katie runs towards them, and Leona tells him that Katie is an old friend, but Chris seems to be distracted. He takes in the surreal world around him. He starts telling the woman about the accident that killed his children, but suddenly, he sees Marie sitting on one of the stairs. He then collects himself and keeps telling her the story.
It was the trucker's fault.
They get into a boat, and as they are going, a memory surfaces. His daughter Marie made paper doll art once displayed in her room. He then tells her how much he loves his daughter. He then starts to notice how the place he's in feels uncannily like that world Marie created. Slowly, it clicks. The young woman guiding him, Leona, is Marie. Overwhelmed, he embraces her, and father and daughter share a quiet, emotional reunion. Back in the real world, Annie is battling with her mental health. She keeps writing in her journal. Later, Chris sits alone in his dream house when Albert arrives. He tells him he was away in work and he just came back. Chris happily tells him he saw Marie and asks when he will see her again, but Albert has something else to tell him.
We're gonna go through something very hard right now.
He tells him that Annie is dead. She herself decided to walk away from life. At first, grief strikes Chris, but then, relief. Her suffering has ended. He takes comfort in the idea of seeing her again, but that hope is quickly shattered. Chris asks when he'll be reunited with her, and Albert hesitates before explaining the truth. Annie decided to end it on her own. Because of this, she cannot enter heaven. Nature's law, he says, doesn't bend. Those who die this way face a different fate, one of isolation and darkness.
No, it's not punishment.
She suffered enough.
No, there are no...
Chris refuses to accept it. He insists that their bond, what they had, goes beyond rules. She's his soulmate. He'll go wherever it takes to find her. Albert tells him that he can't understand what is happening, but Chris was determined. He reminds Albert that there are no rules. He talks about the purple tree and how it was something that never happened.
How about that purple tree, sport? You were pretty surprised when that one came through to me, Hey.
Moved by his resolve, Albert agrees to help. They travel to meet someone known as the Tracker, an old soul who knows the way to hell. The moment he sees Chris, he asks if it's the person who refuses to give up.
I hear the same thing. I also hear I read too slow.
The Tracker, cautious and warns Chris. Annie may not recognize him. She might not even understand him. Her mind could be too far gone. He can say whatever he wants to her, whether she understands him or not.
And you'll have the satisfaction that you didn't give up.
Chris asks when they are going to leave, and the man tells him to close his eyes. Determined, Chris presses on. When he opens his eyes, they set out by boat. The skies darken, storms rise. As they near Hell's Edge, violent spirits attack, dragging their vessel into the churning sea. They're tossed into the water, struggling against the pull of the underworld. Chris asks the man what he used to do when he was alive. The man asks if he is asking about the last time because they can be reborn. Chris, not wanting to argue, simply agrees with that. Last time he was alive, he was a shrink. As they keep going, they are surrounded by people who had been sent to hell. They all attempted to reach them from the water. The boat couldn't resist this much force, and it fell into the water. Chris and the others also fall in. While he is in the water, Chris starts having a memory of his life. His argument with Annie because of Ian, and then with Ian himself. Then the last time he puts them in the car and say goodbye. Eventually, they reach a bleak, ghostly shore and get out of the water. Chris looks around, unsettled, and turns to the Tracker for answers. He's told they've reached the gateway to hell, but worse still. The Tracker admits he's lost Annie's signal. Hearing that Annie's presence has vanished, Chris realizes why his thoughts had drifted to someone else.
Not a ripple.
It's because I was thinking of somebody else.
He goes back to his memories again. Ian tells him that whatever happens in school, and despite him feeling unaccomplished, he will never give up. Seeing that Chris is distracted, Albert asks if he was okay, and they keep walking. He once again recalls saying that if he ever had to face hell, Ian would be the one person he'd want beside him. Then his thoughts shift to his children's funeral.
He's the type of guy that men want to be around.
Now Albert presses on, telling him that they should keep going. He walks straight to a place where guards are waiting to stop whoever attempts to get in. That's when it hits him. Albert isn't Albert. He's Ian, taking on the form of his father's old mentor to guide him more gently. He runs towards him, yelling that his mother is not in there.
Your mom's not in there, son.
The two share a deeply emotional moment. Chris tells him that there is no other man he will go to hell with, but just as they're ready to continue together, the tracker intervenes. Because Chris has now recognized Ian, his emotional focus is split. It's harder for him to hold on to memories of Annie. The tracker advises that Ian stay behind, or they risk losing their purpose.
He's never been anywhere like this before.
No, neither have you.
Ian insists on staying, but the tracker turns towards him and tells him that if that is the case, Chris might not see Annie again, and he wouldn't even be able to say goodbye. Chris then decides to go without the tracker.
You find her. And you bring her back.
But Ian tells Chris to go on without him. But when they reach there, he should just follow his own feeling and find his mother. Before parting, Ian explains why he chose to appear as Albert. He knew his father would trust that voice without hesitation. He urges Chris to remember the strength it took to keep his marriage alive after losing both children. That same strength, he says, will be needed now more than ever. Chris presses on, this time alone with the tracker. He reflects on Annie's agony after their children's deaths, her descent into despair, and her fragile mind. She starts smoking after that, and he sits next to her. He tries to tell her that they are in this together and comfort her. She has a choice now, to either move on or not.
I love them, Annie. But they're gone.
Eventually they reach a nightmarish field, faces of the dead buried in the soil, staring lifelessly upward. Chris starts walking on them, trying very hard not to hurt them. Among them, Chris spots Annie. As he reaches for her, the ground beneath collapses and they fall deep down. When they come to, Chris and the tracker find themselves in a decayed, shadowy version of their once perfect home. The tracker tells him not to fall for this because it is all an illusion. He tells him to say what he has come to say and leave.
You want to see her. Tell her what's in your heart.
The tracker then reveals the truth. He is the real Albert. He's been waiting for years for a chance to reach out to him. He warns Chris if he stays with Annie more than a few minutes, he too will be trapped in this place forever. He will lose his mind, and there will be no return.
You got no defense against Annie.
All Chris has is a sliver of time to say goodbye or to try and awaken her memory. Annie, he's told, has forgotten everything. Chris steps into the ruins of their dream home. There, in the darkness, sits Annie. When he walks towards her, she gets startled. Looking at him, she asks who he is. He tells her that he is her neighbor. He tells her he recognized her because she is a talented artist. He knows she works in the museum too. Annie, lost in the fog of her own mind, can't even remember that she's dead.
But now there's no water pressure in the neighborhood.
Still, Chris doesn't give up. He sits beside her and gently speaks of their life, shared mornings, laughter, heartbreak, and love. He paints it all with his words, hoping something will break through. But instead, she urges him to leave. He then keeps telling her of a time that he was going to leave because he assumed that him staying was not helping Annie. Back then, he shows her a one-way ticket and tells her he was leaving, but she stops him.
Don't give up, okay?
Now as he is sitting there, he tries to make her remember their wedding, but Annie refuses to believe him. Realizing she might never come back to herself, Chris makes a choice not to leave, not to save himself. He tells Albert he's staying. If this is Annie's hell, then it will be his too. He won't abandon her again. Before Albert departs, Chris asks him to deliver one final message. Tell Ian and Marie that their father loves them deeply, endlessly.
You tell my children I love them.
Then he turns back to Annie. He tells her something familiar, something he once said to her in the aftermath of their children's deaths. His voice softens, and so does something in her eyes. The words slip into her, stirring forgotten corners of her heart. Suddenly the haze begins to lift. Annie remembers. She sees him, not as a stranger, but as Chris.
Christy.
But time has already taken its toll. Chris, having stayed too long in this broken realm, begins to fall. He drifts, sinking into the nightmare she once inhabited. Now it's Annie who refuses to let go. She tells him not to give up. Chris opens his eyes and finds himself back in the radiant beauty of heaven. He feels the sting of loss, thinking Annie is gone. But when he turns around, there she is.
Remember me?
They embrace, laugh, and kiss. He asks how they got there, and she tells him it is all about imagination. He then shows her the new world they come into. Later, they reunite with Ian and Marie, now fully themselves again. The family, whole once more, savor their impossible reunion. But Chris isn't content with eternity. He wants something more grounded, more human, a chance to begin again. He suggests they reincarnate to live life one more time, side by side. They will find each other all over again, and they did. In the real world, two children meet in a way that mirrors the very first time Chris and Annie found each other.